Benchmarking Assassin's Creed Valhalla on an i5-6500 with an MSI B150i Gaming Pro motherboard with 8GB of DDR4 running at 2133MHz. The graphics card is a Dell OEM GTX 1070. For storage, there is a 1TB SSD from Silicon Power. To power everything, it's the Corsair TX650W, and everything is housed inside the Sama Max Cool case. Anyway, let's open up Valhalla and get started. Alright, before we jump into the gameplay, I'm gonna get a benchmark, but before even that, we gotta check out the settings that I have it set at. So you can see right here, I'm gonna actually change this to full screen, just so we get the maximum FPS as possible. There we go, native 1920 by 1080. This is a 144Hz panel, so let's set those, and VSync is also off. Alright, moving into the graphics here, looks like it's set itself to high. I haven't changed anything, so this is what it thinks. I might just edit the motion blur off, depth of field low. I'm gonna keep it at high. Now, let's see how this does. I might have to mess with the adaptive quality, but anyway, let's get in to the benchmark. Is there a driver out of date? I was thinking it wasn't. I should take a look at that. But anyway, here we go. 20s, 30s. Honestly, for a game like this, because it's not fast-paced action FPS, this might be an okay. I might want to switch it down to medium and see what that gets us. Alright, just from here from the benchmark, average of 42, minimum of 5, and a max of 58, so we didn't even get above 60 there. Anyway, let's switch it to medium settings and see if there's a better result. Alright, immediately we're seeing some 40s. Okay, yeah, that barely got a difference. I might want to see if I can update this driver real quick. Alright, so I just finished updating all the drivers and then recorded the rest of the video, and turned out there was no audio for the gameplay. So I'm back here doing it again. So let's hit this benchmark at medium settings. Alright, there you can see our drivers are completely up to date. They're not red anymore. And if I remember correctly, updating the drivers, I believe had a little bit increase in performance. Almost reaching 60 FPS right there. Oh, did for 1 second. There we go. Hits it a little bit more. Got a couple of spikes in there. Ooh. Just loading in all those textures. But as soon as you get farther away, they don't load in. So I don't know why those were jumping around like that. Anyway, there we go. Our average of 47, minimum of 22, with a max of 64, 1% lows being 29, and 0.1% lows being 24. So I think that is an increase from before with the old drivers, so that is actually kind of interesting. So this is kind of interesting, even though this is a GTX 1070, a card that I would suggest that honestly could be easily used in 2020 for most games, especially esports games. But for this game, this game looks a little bit more challenging than I thought. Anyway, I do want to kind of try low next, but let's get into some gameplay. Alright, just taking a look around. There's a lot of items here, a lot of things in the shot here, so it's definitely going to be a little bit more jagged. It's not going to hit 60 FPS, it looks like 70, or 70s, 50s, and yeah, that's kind of what it's going to be looking like. That's how it kind of was before, especially with the snow falling. It definitely actually can take down the FPS quite a bit, I've actually noticed. 40s, 50s, that's probably what it's give me. If we look up at the sky, probably 60s, what is 70s even maybe? 60s, okay. And this game, even though it's not a high pace, I would like it to actually look better than feeling an average of 60 FPS, but sometimes during the action you almost want that 60 FPS, if you know what I mean. Because right here it's dropping into the 40s, which it still feels smooth, but when you look back at the town here, or village, it really does start chopping up and doesn't feel as smooth as it should be. Alright, I just noticed through the forest, mountainous terrain right here, it's got up to 60s, it got actually really nice. What? I'm a sniper. Alright, low settings, then let's do a benchmark. So even though we switched it to low settings, it honestly, there's not even much of a difference. I mean, we are seeing 50s now, and I believe we were before, but the settings from low to medium, not too much of a difference. Alright, so an average of 51, which is higher, minimum of 22, which is lower, and a max of 69, nice, which I believe is higher. And our 1% and 0.1% lows, I believe, are higher as well. So yeah, I guess lower is technically better, so let's get into some gameplay. Alright, just running around here. It's looking pretty much the same. It feels a little bit like the stutters feel not as stuttery, if that makes any sense. So the 1% and 0.1% lags don't feel as bad. But as there's a lot of stuff around here, it's gonna slow it down. So like I did before, let's go take a horse and skididdle skedaddle. Here we go, up to the 60s. If we look up, 78, awesome. You love to look up at the sky, then it takes the maxes way higher. 60, 70, so the further you get away from objects, the textures don't have to load in as sharp, therefore the FPS goes up. As looking for the GPU and CPU utilization, honestly, doesn't look like either are bottlenecking, which is really interesting because you would think one of them would be running at 100% if the game is not, well, running, and that has to do with the newer game not working on older hardware as nicely as it should. The game being too new for the hardware, so that's what's gonna happen. So 70s, 80s, no, just 70s, almost 80s. So it's looking like low is probably gonna be the way to go, honestly, for this. If I had a choice, I would play with low, just so it's a little bit smoother during the action, especially because I'm not even doing anything right now, and it's pretty smooth, but let's say I'm doing something, ooh, it's gonna drop significantly, like when we're back in town where it's down in like the 40s and stuff. But anyway, this has been Assassin's Creed Valhalla on an i5 6500 with a GTX 1070. If you want to see any more benchmarks, be sure to leave a comment section down in the description, and also be sure to check out all the other videos that I have on this i5 and also this GTX 1070. Anyway, hopefully this has helped you in some way, and with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and maybe I'll see you in the next one.
Sunan, guide me.